talk is going to be Hack Your SaaS Growth with AWS SaaS Factory. Our speaker today is Mr. Oded Rosenman from the AWS SaaS Factory. So please give me a big hand to Oded to take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for coming out. As the slide says, my name is Oded Rosenman. I'm a global practice lead on the SaaS Factory team. So what we do is we work with organizations that are building and growing their SaaS solutions on AWS. And in this session, I think one of the things that we've seen is that many organizations are just driving growth and accelerating growth is challenging for them, so they're looking for guidance that can help them navigate the transition to SaaS as well as grow their solutions and drive adoption post-launch. So if you are building, migrating, or optimizing SaaS solutions on AWS, this session is for you, and we'll talk about how our team can help you grow your SaaS business with AWS. And if it's not your orientation, by all means, I'll understand if you would like to find a different session that is a better fit for yourself. But this is a quick agenda. First, introduction to SaaS Factory. I want to make sure that you understand what our team does and how we can help you grow your SaaS business. I think over the past few years, we had the opportunity to engage with thousands of organizations who build SaaS on AWS. And we've seen many who succeeded and some who haven't. So I'd like to share here a few of the key learnings from those direct engagements and 4 key SaaS hurdles and hacks that can help you grow your SaaS business. And at the end, I'll try to leave you with some key resources that can help you get started quickly. So first thing first, SaaS Factory is a program that is designed for organizations that are building and running their SaaS businesses on AWS. And our core way is to help them navigate the transition and help them grow their solutions post-launch. And there are 3 core ways in which we do that. First one is we provide access to SaaS experts. So we have on our team SaaS Factory solution architects and business specialists who are experts in SaaS and can provide guidance and support. And then the other piece is that we extended it to a collective community of SI and GSI partners who have been vetted by AWS to have deep expertise in SaaS and can help organizations actually transform to a SaaS business model. Then the second piece is that we take these learnings from those direct engagements and we invest in development of thought leadership content. If you would go to our website now, you would see probably more than 200 artifacts there with key SaaS business topics and technical topics that can provide guidance and support. And then lastly, we kind of take that as well and we build open source reference solutions. So we make investment in making sure that we have things like reference architecture and sample code that can help accelerate the time for SaaS builders. And these are pretty much the 3 core ways that we provide support. So you would see here some of the organizations that we have helped them to build and launch SaaS solutions on AWS in the past few years. As you can see from the logos here, it varies from very early stage startups to market leaders like F5, ADP, Amdocs, NASDAQ, and others. And I think that over the past few years, we've seen growing demand for support. I think more organizations are looking at even portfolio of products that they would like to move to SaaS on AWS, but they find that the journey there is pretty challenging and they're looking for guidance and support that can help them be successful. So the first SaaS hurdle that I would like to highlight is short-term development strategy. I think that one of the biggest mistakes that I see is organizations that are building their architectural strategy for the next 10 or 20 customers, but don't think long-term. One of the worst case scenarios that you can see is organizations that are hitting a spike in growth, but then are not able to support it operationally. So we want to make sure that early on in the journey, we invest in agility and scalability, so then when we hit that spike in growth, we are ready to actually support effectively our customers. I think that, if you would come to me tomorrow and say, hey, here is my architectural SaaS multi-tenant architectural diagram, and let's assume that you have done an awesome work and implemented everything right with microservices and tenant isolation and everything there. if you would say to me that, hey, I'm ready, I've got my SaaS solution, I would say that you are probably not ready if you haven't thought about these other bits. So I think it's a combination of those two things, the application plane and the control plane, that makes a great SaaS, where you have to think about how the tiers of your systems are going to work, how I'm going to manage and operate it as a SaaS business, how I'm going to actually measure customer activity, how do I know what tenants are actually doing and what they are using in my system, and how do I go to zero downtime implementation, as well as reduce agility and reduce cycle time, increase agility and reduce cycle time, so I'm able to get from an idea to actually putting a new feature in the customer hands as quickly as possible. So if you got those two things in place, I would say you are ready to run and operate a SaaS business model as you should. I think SignEasy is a good example of a company who did it very well. If you are not familiar with their business, they have e-signature and document management solution as a SaaS model on AWS. And they've used AWS serverless to scale in and out and meet customer needs. And you can see here just a few of the things that we're able to achieve with those serverless architecture that they have implemented, leveraging AWS Lambda and Amazon time streams. So they were able to reduce response time. I think their response time before that was 8 hours, and it was reduced to 0 hours self-service, scale in and out to meet customer needs, pay only for what they need. Again, elasticity in the system, repurpose the time for their customer success and support teams to actually higher value engagements with customers, and then the development time to get it up and running as a self-service kind of on-demand dashboard took them only 2 weeks. The second hurdle that I would like to highlight is limited time. I think that I see many organizations that have really long multi-year plan for their SaaS transformation. And the problem is well, they think they have a captive market and a good customer base and steady revenue stream. But again, the problem is that you cannot really test your environment and validate your assumptions if you are not getting a minimum viable product out there as soon as you can. So you're building what you think your customer wants, but you have no way to actually collect feedback, track data about usage of your system, and actually shift based on customer needs. And in parallel, obviously, competitors can come in, and then you will find yourself in a catch-up mode. So our recommendation would be to get an MVP out there as soon as possible, start to interact with early adopters, and it doesn't mean only to kind of test your feature functionality. It also have business implication. If I'm getting an MVP out there, I'm able to test my price and packaging strategy. I'm able to test how I'm engaging with my customer success teams to make customers actually successful through the journey from onboarding, adoption, expansion, and renewal in the SaaS environment. And this is a key for being successful. To address that, I think our team has been super focused over the last few years in kind of making sure that we build the right solution that can accelerate time for SaaS builders. There are so many kind of repeatable actions and tasks that builders are doing while building SaaS solutions on AWS, and we want to minimize this time. And I think what we have observed also that any deviation from best practices can lead to accumulative inefficiencies in your SaaS environment. So we want to make sure that customers are able to follow best practices and get accelerated time to market to get their products as soon as possible out there. So I'm happy to announce we just launched it last week, the SaaS Solution Library, which is available on our SaaS on AWS page. It's a collection of pre-designed architectural strategies and design patterns that can simplify kind of the development for SaaS builders. And you will see if you go there, so those are open source and been built by our team. And you will also see side by side the collection of partner-owned IP solutions that can help accelerate the time for SaaS builders, as well as service offerings from our community of SI and GSI partners who provide support. So I think want to encourage you to check it out. I'll have the link kind of to this page afterwards. But definitely, this is one example of GA Telesis who leveraged one of our solutions called SAS Boost. If you are not familiar with GA Telesis, they are one of the biggest commercial aviation companies in the world, and our team provided support to help them build a fraud detection API SaaS solution on AWS. I think, like you can see here from the quote from the CIO, time to market was key for them, and the leverage of SAS Boost and our open source reference solutions just helped them to accelerate the time until launch and get their solution out there as soon as possible. The third piece that I would like to highlight as a key challenge and a hurdle for SaaS is skilled talent. I think that the depth of SaaS migrations and optimizations goes much beyond kind of the technical effort. You have to think about the business strategy and have a customer focus on how you enable your team to engage in the new SaaS model. How our sales, marketing, customer success, product, development, and operations team are interacting and engaging with customers is going to be completely different than the traditional approaches that we have been used so far, right? So we have to not only make sure that we have the right talent with the right skills on paper, but actually to make it an executable plan for them to act upon. So one of the most kind of useful exercises that we do with customers is building a journey map, customer journey map. What you do there is you go through the different stages of a SaaS kind of consumption, from onboarding, adoption, expansion, renewal, and more. And you think, what are the different interactions that we have with customers, and how our teams can use processes, well-defined processes and tools to actually optimize those interactions and create a better customer experience along the entire life cycle of a customer with us. So I think in this case, again, you think how you create these processes, create these approaches for your teams, but if you don't have the teams in place, it will require you to hire new talent or leverage support from external organizations that can provide this and fill in this gap for you. So one of the things that we've done to kind of address this challenge is that we've launched the SaaS competency for consulting partners. Those are we have 46 now, you see here 45, but we've just onboarded Accenture last week as well. They're not on the slide, but those have been vetted by our team to have the right expertise to support complex SaaS transformations on AWS. I think that our data shows that customers and organizations who leverage support from those partners are able to increase their project success rate and accelerate time to market. So definitely I encourage you to kind of think whether you need to some extra support, think whether it makes sense for you to engage with one of these partners, because we've seen much better results and success when organizations are doing so. One example for this is the Scale Factory. This is one of our leading SaaS competency partners based out of the UK. They have helped trading company Kaplan to launch a new SaaS solution on AWS. And like you see here on the slide, like the quote from Steve, the CTO, he said that time to market was a key challenge for them. And being able to leverage support from the Scale Factory helped them not only to accelerate time to market, but making sure that they are following best practices and keeping the bar super, super high for their application. So the fourth hurdle that I would like to highlight as a key challenge is growth. I think over the years, we've seen so many organizations that were focused on kind of the launch process. So how we get from an idea and developing our solution and actually launching it in general availability, but then they struggle to drive adoption and actually grow their solutions post-launch. So we really need to think about the SaaS model, again, from a business perspective, how you create a land and expand strategy where you create a seamless experience where you can try the solution and afterwards convert it to actual purchase customers, where your different teams, including marketing and sales, will take probably a different role in the engagement with customers. And also organizations are shifting to product-led growth and other go-to-market approaches where the product itself becomes the main vehicle for us to acquire, activate, and retain our customers. So it really requires a different level of investment, and from my perspective, kind of looking at this, growth for SaaS companies, it's not a necessity, it's survival. If you are not driving growth for your SaaS application, you will not see any value back to your business. So you need to make sure that you have an executable plan with your teams on how to do that in a different way, probably, than the traditional way that you have used to do it before. One of the things that you can potentially leverage to address that is AWS Marketplace to amplify your growth. I think over the last few years, we've seen just a tremendous growth with Marketplace, especially for SaaS businesses. Currently, we have over 33,000 active customers, those that have at least one subscribe kind of listing as part of the engagement with Marketplace. Over 3,500 software vendors, over 70 categories, and more than 3,000 listings. And in 2022, we've seen kind of billions of dollars that are being sold for SaaS organizations, by SaaS organizations on the AWS Marketplace, with sales actually being almost doubled this year, that year. So I think many of the organizations, it's not a good fit for everyone, but if it's a good fit for your SaaS business, I would like to encourage you kind of to explore this as a new revenue stream for your business, and something else that you can leverage to drive growth and activate kind of a go-to-market and co-sell motion with AWS. Just a few weeks ago, we've launched a new incentive program called AWS Marketplace List and Sell. This is a program to leverage support from qualified AWS Marketplace, including SaaS competency partners that we saw before, and Marketplace integrators, to help you list your solution on Marketplace and drive sales after your listing has been published on the Marketplace. So encourage you to check it out with your AWS contact person and ask about AWS Marketplace List and Sell and how you can leverage this program to drive growth together with AWS. One of the great examples around Marketplace is Trend Micro. Our team had the opportunity to support their SaaS efforts directly, and you can see here the quote from the COO saying that in Q3 of 2022, their Marketplace sales grew by 150% year over year, while their entire other ARR business was growing at 80%. Just a good example of how they were able to create a new revenue stream for their business, and we see just more and more SaaS organizations that are leveraging the Marketplace, again, to kind of initiate a go-to-market and co-sell motion with AWS and drive growth for their SaaS businesses. So I covered only 4 hurdles and hacks in this session. Obviously, there are many more, and I think one, I want to offer our team support. If you think you have SaaS in plans, or you have already launched your SaaS solution and struggling to drive adoption and growth, I think we're happy to kind of engage and support you with our SaaS experts of solution architects and business specialists. A few key resources. The first one is the SaaS on AWS page. This is where you will also be able to find the SaaS solutions library, which I talked about before. The second is the domain experts. This direct to the SaaS competency consulting partner page. So those SI and GSI partners that have deep expertise in SaaS and can help you navigate SaaS transformations and optimizations. And third is to join the AWS Partner Network if you haven't already. So hopefully this was valuable for you. We had very short time, so I tried to cover some key things that we see in our engagement with customers, but happy to kind of stay here and have a chat or address any questions if you have some. Feel free to take the survey and just invest a minute to share your feedback. Happy to hear your feedback, and thank you. Have a great conference.